Welcome to Too Real for TV podcast, season 1, episode 5. Today we're embarking on a really deep dive into a topic that I think resonates with so many of us. We're blending a profoundly personal real-life experience with some sharp expert psychological insights. Our goal, as always here on Too Real for TV, is to illuminate those complex human experiences we all navigate, often feeling isolated when we really aren't. We're going to dissect a really poignant personal story today, one that brilliantly spotlights the painful dynamics of humiliation, the insidious persistence of emotional patterns, and, well, the absolutely critical quest for self-preservation in our most intimate relationships. The sources for this particular deep dive are incredibly rich and varied. We're drawing directly from a compelling personal account that was shared online, a story that truly captured a collective consciousness, you could say.
Alongside this raw narrative, we'll be cross-referencing rigorous psychological analysis from Psychology Today, detailed guidance on recognizing and navigating emotional abuse and gaslighting from trusted resources like Healthline and Verywell Mind, and some practical, actionable advice on setting essential boundaries from helpguide.org. So it's a truly comprehensive look at a challenging yet universally important topic.
Absolutely. And our mission for you, our listener, is crystal clear today. We want to unpack the many intricate layers of this deeply relatable emotional challenge. Our goal is to help you not just observe, but truly recognize these recurring patterns, maybe in your own life or in relationships you've witnessed, to deeply understand their profound impact, and then, most crucially, to explore tangible, actionable steps for building resilience and, fostering healing. This isn't merely about one person's story. It's about dissecting universal dynamics and challenging relationships, dynamics that are so often hidden or minimized, making them feel profoundly too real for TV. It's about arming you with knowledge and ultimately empowering you.
That's precisely it. This is knowledge designed to empower. And if this deep dive resonates with you, if it sparks a new understanding, or if you simply appreciate the kind of in-depth exploration we strive for here on Too Real for TV, please take a moment to like, subscribe, or follow us wherever you listen. You can find us readily available on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts as Audible, and Apple Podcasts. Your support is truly invaluable, enabling us to continue bringing these crucial conversations to light.
The core discussion, a humiliating camping trip.
All right, let's unpack this deeply unsettling narrative. We're stepping into the shoes of a 31-year-old woman, the original poster, or OP, who shared her experience online. She's been in a relationship with her boyfriend. He's 35 for 3 years, and they've lived together for 1. Now, what immediately jumps out, and something that adds a layer of complexity to their dynamic, is that they weren't just a recent match. They've actually been friends since high school.
Wow, okay, so there's a long history there.
Exactly. A long established history, a foundation of shared experiences, and presumably trust, which makes what unfolded even more jarring. The core of her story revolves around a camping trip they took with a group of friends, where 2 specific incidents occurred that truly shattered her sense of safety and respect within the relationship. The first incident unfolded as they were setting up camp. She mentions her boyfriend had been drinking, which is an important detail we'll definitely circle back to later. Suddenly, without explanation, he started taking down their shared bug net. Assuming he was simply adjusting it or maybe had a better idea for placement, the OP, being helpful and cooperative, pitched in. She tried to assist him with a part that was stuck. Then she saw him starting to fold it into its bag, and she naturally asked, what are you doing?
A perfectly normal question.
Right, and that's when the shift happened. He snapped, his tone just laced with accusation, and declared, "You took it down, so we're not using it."
Wait, she took it down? He's saying she did it.
That's what he claimed. Imagine the whiplash. She was, understandably, utterly bewildered. She tried to clarify, "Wait, I thought you were taking it down. I was just helping you." His response, a dismissive, curt whatever, before he just handed it to her, leaving her to quietly, on her own, put the bug net back up.
Oh, wow.
It's not just about a bug net, you see. It's about the sudden, illogical blame. The public dismissal in front of friends, presumably.
Right, the context matters.
And the profound feeling of being blindsided, having her helpful actions twisted into an accusation, and then being left to fix something she didn't break. It's a sudden, jarring shift from partner to, perpetrator, leaving her feeling small and confused.
Yeah, the immediate impact of that interaction, just as the OP describes it, is that sense of utter confusion. And being stunned by the sudden aggression and, as you highlighted, the completely misplaced blame, it makes no sense. This initial incident, though it might seem minor on the surface, oh, it's just a bug net, it already reveals these deeply unsettling signs of disrespect and a profound unpredictability in his behavior. This is crucial because it's often in these seemingly small, early moments that the subtle indicators of a persistent underlying pattern of emotional abuse start to emerge. They kind of set the stage.
They chip away at things, right?
Exactly. Chipping away at trust and security and paving the way for more serious incidents to come. It makes it difficult for the person experiencing it to pinpoint when things really started to go wrong, or even if they're just overreacting. It plants that seed of self-doubt.
And unfortunately, that seed quickly blossomed into something far more alarming. The dynamic escalated dramatically,
Right.
leading to a second, far more aggressive incident centered around starting the campfire. The OP was casually trying to get a fire going so they could cook, and she simply asked a friend for a stick to move some logs around. Completely innocuous request, a normal part of camping.
It's normal.
But then as she recounts, her boyfriend jumps in, those are her words, out of nowhere. He aggressively started messing with the fire, using an axe.
Using an axe.
Yes, using an axe, and with a tone just dripping with sarcasm, he declared, "I'm no idiot, but here." Then the situation took an even darker turn. He turned to her, axe still in hand apparently, and asked in a completely condescending, demeaning tone, "This is the hot part of the fire, this is the cooler part? You fucking got that."
Oh my God.
She was, again, absolutely stunned, standing there silently, unable to respond. The image of him holding an axe, speaking to her like that in front of their friends, it's incredibly jarring and disturbing.
It absolutely is. It's no longer just a verbal attack at that point. It carries a deeply unsettling implied physical threat.
Right.
Holding a tool like that, an axe, while being aggressive,
Right.
it creates immense discomfort and significantly raises the stakes of the entire interaction. It basically transforms a casual camping activity into this frightening display of power and control. What's truly fascinating and, frankly, deeply disturbing here is the immediate and very public escalation of humiliation. The boyfriend's actions aggressively messing with the fire, the visual of him holding an axe while speaking so condescendingly. These don't just raise questions about control, they raise serious questions about safety.
Physical safety, yeah.
Both physical and emotional. This wasn't a private argument. It feels like a calculated act to demean her in front of their shared friends. And this raises a profoundly important question for all of us to consider. What messages are being sent not only to the victim, but also to any onlookers when such overt aggression and intimidation occur in a public setting like that?
What does it communicate?
Exactly. It's not just about the words he used. It's about the raw, unfiltered display of power, the clear intent to embarrass, and the chilling implication that somehow this behavior is acceptable, or maybe even that she deserves it. It forces others to witness a violation and can create a really chilling effect on the entire group dynamic. People don't know what to do.
No, absolutely. And the confrontation continued right there in the public eye. He loudly accused her of talking to him like he's an idiot. But here's where the OP showed a moment of incredible, almost defiant bravery. Instead of retreating or accepting his twisted narrative, she turned to her friend, and right there, with her boyfriend standing within earshot, she told her friend exactly what he had just said to her.
Good for her. That takes guts.
Doesn't it? He tried to defend himself, to spin it somehow, but she just told him directly to shut up. His reaction. He stormed off to nap in the car.
The storm off.
Yeah, effectively ending the public display, but certainly not the conflict. It was a clear, direct stand against his attempt to control the narrative, to basically gaslight her in real time in front of witnesses.
And the boyfriend's subsequent behavior really solidifies the deeply entrenched pattern we're observing here. He completely ignored her at camp after that, engaging only with others.
The silent treatment.
Textbook stonewalling, yes. Then, the next day, after they drove separately, which is another telling tale about the lingering tension, he finally offered what seemed like an apology. Sorry, I lost my temper.
Seemed like one, yeah?
But the crucial part, the definitive indicator of a deeper issue, is what happened immediately after. As soon as she emerged from the shower, he initiated a conversation with, "We should have a talk." And then, with breathtaking speed, he immediately pivoted to blame her.
Of course he did.
Claiming she was so mean to him. This swift, undeniable pattern of denial, maybe a vague apology, and then immediate reversal of blame is absolutely critical to recognize. It's a classic manipulative cycle. Lash out, offer a shallow or non-committal apology maybe, and then, without missing a beat, flip the script to make the victim feel responsible. It erases their legitimate feelings and forces them onto the defensive.
Constantly scrambling.
Exactly. It's designed to keep the victim perpetually off balance and questioning their own reality.
And this wasn't an isolated incident for the OP, which is where her story becomes so relatable for many, I think. She herself explicitly states in her own words that this is a pattern.
She sees it herself?
Yes.
Yeah.
He lashes out, minimizes it, or tries gaslighting me into believing I behave the way he did and not him, and apologizes vaguely. The red flags, I mean, you could just hear them flapping, right?
They're everywhere.
She also adds another critically important detail. He promised to stop drinking again.
Again, that's the key word.
Right, which immediately implies a long, painful history of these kinds of incidents and a cycle of unfulfilled promises. It highlights that this isn't merely a one-off bad day or a momentary lapse in judgment. It's a deeply ingrained, cyclical behavioral pattern that is consistently eroding her well-being.
So if we take all these elements together, the public humiliation, the sudden blame, the aggressive displays, the gaslighting attempts, the vague apologies, followed by immediate blame reversal. What does this all mean for the OP's stated feelings? She mentioned feeling humiliated, confused, emotionally exhausted. This narrative is just a classic textbook example of how consistent negative behaviors, especially those involving blame, denial, and manipulation, can profoundly erode a person's sense of self and reality.
It just wears you down.
Completely. Each incident, no matter how seemingly small on its own, chips away at their self-worth. They begin to question their perceptions, their memory, maybe even their sanity. This cumulative effect is devastating. It leaves individuals feeling trapped, utterly depleted, and constantly questioning themselves. This isn't just a bad relationship, it's a fundamental assault on one's identity and emotional well-being.
Yeah.
Making the situation feel profoundly too real for TV in its painful authenticity. It's that kind of subtle, creeping damage that outsiders often miss, but the person living it feels so acutely.
Common analysis, the collective perspective.
And when the OP bravely shared her story online, it wasn't just met with a handful of sympathetic replies. There was an absolute flood of responses, hundreds and hundreds of comments.
Right.
It powerfully illustrates just how common, how tragically widespread experiences like this are. Many of you listening right now, I imagine, might resonate deeply with this, recognizing similar dynamics in your own lives or maybe in the lives of people you know. This massive community response provided immense validation for the OP, which is such a crucial balm against the isolation that this kind of abuse often fosters.
Absolutely vital.
And it offered a collective insight into dynamics that are far too often hidden behind closed doors. It shows that while these experiences feel intensely personal and isolating, they are, sadly, universal and deeply understood by a collective consciousness.
Yeah, that validation piece is huge. And when we meticulously examine the overwhelming volume of these comments, we can immediately begin to categorize several key sentiments and recurring themes that really stand out. The most striking, by far, was the overwhelming consensus. Leave. Comment after comment was just unequivocal, almost like a collective shout.
Really? That's strong.
Oh yeah, people weren't just sympathetic, they were urgent. Messages like, move on. This is just a pattern of abuse, and it will only get worse. And this stark warning, it never, ever gets better, and it always gets much worse. So leave now while you still have a sense of yourself.
Oh.
There was virtually no dissent on this point, which illustrates a powerful collective recognition of dangerous relationship patterns.
Wow.
Beyond that, many users echoed the OP's own observation, stating plainly it's a pattern, and highlighting that he said it before, this isn't new, underscoring the deeply cyclical nature of his behavior and the utter unreliability of his promises. The community saw the repetition and recognized its danger immediately.
It's incredibly powerful to witness that kind of collective wisdom emerge so forcefully. And digging even deeper into those comments, it's fascinating how specific terms and labels were used repeatedly to describe the boyfriend's behavior. And they draw direct, often chilling, links to the professional psychological sources we're exploring today. For example, contempt was explicitly named by many.
Yes, contempt.
Commenters would say things like, "He has contempt for you, pure and simple," or, "Girl, I wish I left when I first realized that cold disdain in his eyes."
From a psychological perspective, as relationship researchers like John Gottman have profoundly demonstrated, contempt is considered the single most destructive relationship trait.
It really is the kiss of death for relationships, isn't it?
Pretty much. It's essentially communicating disgust and disdain, not just for someone's actions, but for their very being. It signals a fundamental devaluation of the other person, stripping away their dignity right before your eyes, making true repair virtually impossible.
It implies a complete lack of respect and a belief that the other person is somehow beneath you. It's corrosive. Totally. Then there's the term gaslighting. This term appeared over and over again, like a recurring nightmare within the comments. One commenter directly quoted the OP's own words, highlighting, "He lashes out, minimizes it, or tries gaslighting me into believing I behave the way he did and not him."
And that aligns perfectly with the clinical definition.
Right.
Right, like the one in Very Well Mind.
Okay.
It's a manipulative tactic designed to make someone question their own experiences, their feelings, and ultimately their sanity.
It makes you feel like you're going crazy.
Exactly. It's an insidious form of psychological abuse that makes you doubt your own reality, leaving you feeling profoundly confused and disoriented. It's particularly effective because it attacks your very perception of truth.
And another incredibly insightful term brought up by a particularly astute commenter was DARVO.
DARVO, yes. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender.
Precisely. And if you look closely at the boyfriend's actions, this specific tactic perfectly matches his behavior after the axe incident. First, he denies his actions by ignoring her and then offering that vague apology. Then, he attacks the OP, claiming she talked to him like he's an idiot. And finally, he reverses victim and offender roles by claiming she was the one who is so mean to him.
It's a complete bewildering reversal. It's designed to confuse, deflect blame, and ultimately make the victim internalize the guilt. It exploits their shock and maybe their empathy while simultaneously disorienting them. It's a classic maneuver of emotional abusers.
It really is. And finally, a particularly sharp comment identified what are famously known as the four horsemen of the apocalypse in relationships.
The Gottman work again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This commenter pointed out stonewalling, criticism, and defensiveness in his behavior, noting that these, when combined with contempt, which we just discussed, are the destructive communication patterns identified by the Gottmans. These horsemen almost invariably spell doom for couples over time, just corroding the very foundations of trust and affection.
And the boyfriend's complete silent treatment after the argument, ignoring her completely at camp. That's a textbook example of stonewalling, shutting down communication, often to punish or control. It's a deeply dysfunctional dynamic.
It's just shutting the door.
Completely. This broad categorization of behavior drawn from the comments and how perfectly it aligns with established psychological definitions raises an incredibly important question for us all to ponder. Why are these patterns, even when so clearly recognized by others, and sometimes even by the victim themselves, so incredibly difficult to escape?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. Part of the answer lies in the profound, paralyzing impact of shame, a concept deeply explored and understood in resources like Psychology Today. Shame, in the context of emotional abuse, serves a dual devastating purpose. It is both a primary damage inflicted upon the victim and a primary tool cunningly used by the abuser to maintain control.
So it works both ways.
Exactly. The OP's explicit feeling of being humiliated is a direct, visceral experience of this deep shame. It goes right to the core. This leads us into what is often grimly called the prison of shame. Shame makes victims feel inherently worthless, fundamentally unlovable, and utterly trapped. It fosters this pervasive, debilitating belief that no one else would ever want them or that they somehow deserve the treatment they're receiving.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is. This internal narrative, meticulously crafted and relentlessly reinforced by the abuse and fueled by shame, creates a powerful internal barrier that keeps individuals ensnared in abusive relationships. They might chastise themselves internally, thinking, how can I be so weak that I stay with someone who abuses me like this? Or if I were stronger, I'd just leave.
Blaming themselves.
Right. This self-blame, combined with the abuser's tactics, makes it feel utterly impossible to just cut everyone out, even when intellectually they know they should. It's a self-perpetuating cycle of isolation and internal torture, a psychological trap designed to keep them compliant.
Wow. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, and where the online community showed its diverse, sometimes conflicting perspectives. The whole mean drunk and alcoholism theme. Many commenters immediately honed in on the fact that he'd been drinking heavily, often labeling him a mean drunk or outright an alcoholic.
That often comes up.
What emerged was a significant debate within the comments. Some suggested that alcoholism is the root problem, implying that if he just stopped drinking, everything would magically be fine, as if sobriety would fix his entire character.
The magic wand idea?
Yeah. Others, however, argued vehemently that alcohol is merely an amplifier of an already problematic character. stating forcefully things like, if it wasn't in his character to be abusive, he wouldn't do it whilst drunk. Alcohol doesn't turn good people bad.
That's a common debate.
It really is. This is too real for TV in its rawest, most relatable form. The enduring debate over whether alcohol is the ultimate cause of such behavior is simply a convenient excuse for existing toxicity and deep-seated personality issues.
And if we connect this to the broader psychological picture, the general consensus, even amidst that online debate, leans heavily towards the latter view. While alcohol may certainly lower inhibitions, making existing behaviors more pronounced and less filtered.
It lets the mask slip.
Pretty much. The underlying abusive traits, the contempt, the blaming, the gaslighting, the need for control, are inherently present irrespective of his sobriety. His repeated promise to stop drinking again further solidifies this pattern. It implies a tragic, cyclical pattern of relapse and unfulfilled promises, where the core characterological issues remain unaddressed.
So the drinking isn't causing the behavior necessarily.
It's more like pouring gasoline on a fire that's already burning. The abusive behaviors continue, perhaps more overtly or aggressively when intoxicated, but they're still very much a part of his inherent character. Alcohol becomes less of a cause and more of a convenient shield, allowing the individual to deflect responsibility for actions that stem from deeper issues of anger, insecurity, or a need for dominance.
It's an excuse.
Often, yes. It's not just about the alcohol. It's about the consistent willingness to inflict the emotional harm, with or without a drink in hand.
Right. So, to summarize the collective wisdom gleaned from those hundreds of insightful comments, there was an overwhelming, almost unanimous call for the OP to prioritize her safety and her profound well-being above all else. The community, through its shared experiences and its deep insights, acknowledged the severe, cumulative emotional damage inflicted by such patterns of abuse. They collectively urged her to recognize that her situation was far from unique, that her feelings were not only valid but entirely warranted, and that walking away from such a dynamic was not a failure of the relationship, but a triumphant act of self-preservation.
And that collective validation, as we said, is often the first crucial step out of that prison of shame. Knowing you're not alone, knowing others see it
That
clearly.
Ross referenced solutions and deeper understanding.
Okay, now let's pivot from diagnosis and collective validation to strategy and empowerment. We've explored the painful reality of the OP's situation, the insidious patterns, and the collective wisdom of those who responded to her story. So the crucial question becomes, how can someone experiencing this navigate such a challenging, often dangerous situation? What can you do? We're going to pull actionable insights from our comprehensive psychological and relationship advice sources like Healthline, Verywell Mind, Help Guide to provide concrete, tangible guidance for you, our listener, who might be facing similar dynamics or maybe just seeking to understand them better.
Absolutely. Let's begin by revisiting the very nature of emotional abuse itself, drawing clear definitions from Healthline. Emotional abuse is broadly defined as any attempt to frighten, control, or isolate you. And it's characterized not just by isolated words or actions, but profoundly by the consistency and pattern of these behaviors. That's the key. Yes. It might not involve overt physical violence, but it absolutely can involve veiled threats or chilling intimidation, which we saw stark shades of with that Axe incident. The boyfriend's specific actions align perfectly with Healthline's detailed examples of abuse tactics. For instance, the humiliation, negating, and criticism he subjected her to.
Like with the bug net and the fire.
Exactly. Accusing her of taking down the bug net, condescendingly explaining the fire, and then loudly accusing her of talking to him like he's an idiot. These are classic examples of public embarrassment and dismissiveness. His use of that chilling phrase, "you fucking got that," is a profound form of derogatory questioning and belittling, even without explicit name-calling.
And the act.
And the Axe incident, as you rightly noted, clearly demonstrates intimidation and the chilling potential for physical threat, even if no direct physical violence occurred. It's a vivid display of power meant to terrify. Furthermore, his behaviors fit squarely into the control and shame tactics described by Healthline. His gaslighting, where he denies events or agreements and subtly makes her question her memory or sanity, is a classic example of cognitive manipulation.
Making her doubt herself.
Precisely. The unpredictability of his moves shifts snapping suddenly, then later apologizing vaguely, leaving her perpetually unsure of what to expect, keeps the victim in a constant state of anxiety, basically walking on eggshells. And his post-argument silent treatment, ignoring her completely at camp. That's a direct, painful example of stonewalling, a tactic designed to punish, control, and isolate through emotional withdrawal.
Just shutting her out.
Yeah. Finally, the accusing, blaming, and denial tactics are abundantly clear. His immediate pivot to blame her, saying we should have a talk, then stating how she was so mean to him, is a textbook example of blaming the victim for his own problems and trivializing her entirely valid reactions. He goads her into reacting, then blames her for the very reaction he provoked. It creates this vicious, inescapable cycle of self-blame.
Ugh, it's exhausting just hearing about it. So what does this all mean for you, the listener, who might be navigating similar troubled waters? It means recognizing that emotional abuse is rarely about isolated incidents of a bad temper or momentary lapse in judgment. As Healthline meticulously outlines, it's about a consistent, pervasive undercurrent of behavior, subtle signs that build up over time to form a relentless pattern of undermining, control, and blame. It's not a one-off mistake that can be excused. It feels more like a deliberate, repeated set of actions designed to erode your self-worth, diminish your reality, and control you.
Exactly. This is precisely why understanding the consistency of these behaviors is so critically important. It helps you identify the pattern rather than getting lost in the weeds of each individual incident and maybe making excuses for them.
Right. Seeing the forest for the trees.
Precisely. Let's dive even deeper into gaslighting itself now, a term we've heard repeatedly from the comments and one that is so precisely defined and analyzed by Very Well Mind. It powerfully reinforces the definition we mentioned earlier, manipulating someone to systematically question their own reality, their experiences, their feelings, and their very sanity.
It messes with your head so much.
It really does. The boyfriend's actions, like him implying she was imagining things about the bug net incident, his outright denial of his abusive words, I never said that, and his blaming, saying, it's your fault I behaved this way, or you are so mean to him, these are all quintessential gaslighting tactics. He is actively, maliciously attempting to make her believe she behaved badly, not him, making her question her own memory and perception. That is the essence of gaslighting. The profound, insidious impact of gaslighting is equally important to understand, as it directly speaks to the OP's stated feelings of humiliation, confusion, exhaustion. As Very Well Mind meticulously explains, it leads to deep confusion, crippling self-doubt, and a complete loss of trust in oneself, and often in others too.
You start to feel really alone.
Absolutely. Victims often experience severe anxiety, profound depression, and a pervasive sense of isolation because their reality is constantly invalidated by the abuser, leaving them feeling crazy and alone. So for those experiencing this, Very Well Mind offers some clear, actionable advice. First, and perhaps most vitally, maintain self-awareness and trust your instincts. If something feels off, if your gut is screaming, it probably is. Your feelings are valid even if the abuser tells you they aren't. Maybe keep a journal to document interactions. This external record can be a powerful antidote to self-doubt when they try to rewrite history.
That's a really practical tip.
It can be. Second, use I statements when confronting. Instead of saying, you always make me doubt myself, which can sound accusatory and invite defensiveness.
Puts them on the back foot.
Right. Try, I feel confused and hurt when you deny what you said because I clearly remember it. This focuses on your experience rather than blaming, and it's much harder to argue with someone's feelings. Third, and this is crucial, evaluate the relationship for patterns. Is this a one-time thing, or is this a repeated, predictable cycle of behavior? Patterns reveal intent and character, not just isolated mistakes. And finally, and most importantly, prioritize your safety and seek support if needed. This is paramount when dealing with escalating emotional abuse, as it can often precede or accompany physical threats or simply devastate your mental health. Reaching out to trusted friends, family, or professionals is a vital step in reclaiming your reality and getting perspective.
That makes so much sense. And that brings us to the absolutely critical role of boundaries, a concept expertly laid out by helpguide.org as foundational to healthy relationships. Boundaries aren't about building impenetrable walls to keep people out. Quite the opposite, actually. They are, in fact, essential for fostering healthy, balanced relationships, for nurturing your own autonomy, and for maintaining an unwavering sense of self-respect.
They're like the guidelines for interaction.
Exactly. They define what is acceptable and what isn't in how others interact with you. They're kind of a roadmap for mutual respect.
Yeah.
We're talking about various types here. Physical, your personal space, touch, sexual boundaries, emotional, your feelings, your energy, material or financial, your stuff, your money, and time boundaries, your schedule, your availability.
All crucial areas.
Right. In the OP's camping incidents, we see clear, blatant violations of emotional boundaries, and the menacing presence of the acts even hints at a deeply unsettling breach, or at least a significant threat,
to her physical safety boundary.
Yeah, only crossing lines there.
Yeah. Helpguide.org also highlights the inherent dangers of unhealthy boundaries, which often manifest in one of two ways. They can be too rigid, pushing others away and leading to isolation, or they can be too porous, where you have immense trouble saying no and you're easily taken advantage of, kind of becoming a doormat.
Finding that healthy balance is key.
It is. People struggle to set and maintain healthy boundaries for a multitude of complex reasons. Maybe a deep-seated fear of rejection or abandonment, crippling low self-esteem that makes them feel their needs aren't worth vocalizing, or even a subtle, unconscious desire to control others by never pushing back. But learning to navigate this complex terrain, to assert yourself respectfully, is absolutely crucial for your mental and emotional well-being. And helpguide.org provides clear, actionable advice for setting effective boundaries. First, know what you want and why. This means deeply reflecting on your core values, precisely what specific behaviors bother you and how others' actions genuinely make you feel. Ask yourself, did that comment make me feel genuinely disrespected, or was it just a misunderstanding? Or did I feel pressured into doing something that fundamentally didn't align with my values? This deep, honest self-reflection is the indispensable first step.
You have to know where your line is before you can draw it.
Exactly. It helps you pinpoint exactly where boundaries are truly needed, allowing you to articulate them clearly and with conviction. Second, talk to the person calmly and clearly. Choose a calm, private time for this conversation, ideally when you're both relaxed and receptive, not in the heat of an argument.
Timing is everything.
It really is. Prepare what you want to say, maybe even jot down your key points beforehand so you don't get sidetracked or overwhelmed. Crucially, use those I statements we talked about, for example. I feel disrespected when you come into my room unannounced, instead of the accusatory, you always disrespect my privacy. Be direct, be clear, be concise. And remember, you do not need to justify your needs or feelings. They are valid simply because they are yours. However, clear, non-confrontational communication will significantly help the other person understand your boundaries. Hopefully. And the third step, and finally, and this is perhaps the hardest part for many, is to enforce boundaries consistently and with conviction. This means having clear, reasonable consequences for boundary violations, and most importantly, consequences that you are absolutely, unequivocally willing to follow through on.
That's the tricky part, the follow-through.
It's everything. If you talk over me again, I will end this conversation, then you must do it. If you tell your partner, if you continue to yell at me like that, I will need to leave the room, you must follow through. This consistent follow-through is absolutely crucial for the boundary's effectiveness. Without it, the other person quickly learns that your boundaries are just empty threats, easily ignored, and your self-respect further erodes.
Your words lose meaning.
Exactly. This is where your actions speak louder than any words, and where true self-preservation begins. It's often terrifying, but it's the only way to build respect, both from others and for yourself.
That's incredibly important advice. Connecting all of this back to the overwhelming emotional impact on the OP, particularly her profound feeling of being humiliated, we can draw directly from psychology. Today's insightful 10 Steps for Getting Over Humiliation by Robert J. Sternberg, a celebrated scholar in psychology. It acknowledges that humiliation is an intensely painful, deeply destabilizing experience, but it's also a common one. And crucially, there are concrete, actionable ways to move through it and reclaim your power.
Okay, so there are steps you can take.
Yes. Sternberg offers invaluable tips that apply directly to the OP's situation and indeed to anyone navigating similar emotional pain. His first tip is to realize you are not alone.
Like those Reddit comments show.
Exactly. The flood of supportive comments the Oki received online, with so many individuals sharing their similar stories and offering solidarity, is a powerful, undeniable testament to this universal human experience. There are countless others who have felt this very same pain. Second, be resilient and don't give up. This isn't about passively enduring the pain, but about actively focusing on bouncing back, recovering, and building inner strength. Third, and this is a crucial distinction that helps depersonalize the abuse. Most of the time, it's nothing personal. It's about fit. Now, this certainly doesn't excuse abusive behavior.
Right, it's not an excuse.
Not at all. But understanding that the abuser's actions often stem from their own deep-seated issues, their own insecurities, or their need for control, rather than from your inherent worth or lack thereof, can help you detach from the shame and internal blame. It's about their brokenness, not yours.
That reframing can be powerful.
It can be. Fourth, learn from the experience. Every challenging situation, no matter how excruciatingly painful, offers lessons that can contribute to your personal growth and resilience, helping you maybe identify red flags earlier next time. Fifth, seek a robust support network, trusted friends, understanding family members, or professional therapists. This is absolutely crucial for healing, especially when emotional abuse can lead to profound isolation and self-doubt. These relationships offer validation and a vital lifeline. Sternberg further advises to use any downtime for enjoyment, to actively engage in activities that nourish your spirit and remind you of your worth, rather than just dwelling in the pain. He urges us to think twice before striking back, suggesting that energy is better spent focusing on building a new, healthier future for yourself, rather than engaging in revenge or futile attempts to change the abuser.
Focus on your own path forward.
Exactly. He emphasizes not to hide. Instead, affirm who you are and what you stand for, showing the crisis has not destroyed you, but perhaps refined you. Ninth, view the crisis as an opportunity to pursue something you love, a chance for profound personal transformation and redirection. And finally, move on. Don't wallow in the past, but actively plan for a future free from that pain. While individual recovery paths differ greatly, and standing up can certainly be risky sometimes, these steps emphasize reclaiming your agency and moving decisively towards a healthier, more authentic self.
Wow. This entire deep dive, from the raw narrative to the expert analysis and these actionable strategies, it ties back so beautifully and profoundly to the OP's stated desire. I'm trying to do better and not just cutting everyone out of my life when things go wrong.
Yeah.
This deep dive, in fact, suggests something incredibly profound and empowering. Sometimes cutting people out or moving on isn't a failure to maintain a relationship or a sign of weakness,
Not at all.
but rather a profoundly necessary and courageous act of radical self-preservation and healthy boundary setting.
Right?
Especially when you're dealing with consistent, entrenched patterns of emotional abuse, the insidious nature of gaslighting that distorts your reality, and that suffocating prison of shame that holds you captive.
It's choosing yourself.
It is. The true liberating path to healing from shame involves realizing it's not your fault, believing with every fiber of your being that you unequivocally deserve respect, kindness, and genuine partnership. And then slowly but surely, building the unshakable confidence to stand up for yourself and, if necessary, to bravely walk away from what diminishes you. This entire journey, from profound humiliation to hard-won empowerment, is truly too real for TV. Outro. As we compassionately wrap up this deep dive, we truly hope you've gained valuable insights into the devastating impact of humiliation and emotional abuse, the insidious and disorienting nature of gaslighting, the critical life-altering role of setting and enforcing healthy boundaries, and the paramount importance of recognizing destructive patterns in your relationships. Remember, prioritizing your own well-being isn't selfish. It's an absolutely essential act of self-love and preservation.
Absolutely. And as you reflect on this conversation, allow yourself to ponder this provocative thought. If your relationships, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, are consistently draining you more than they are filling you up, what story are they truly telling about the boundaries you've set? Or perhaps the ones you have yet to courageously establish? And what small, courageous step can you take today to reclaim your narrative, redefine what you deserve, and begin writing a new chapter for yourself?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deeply personal and universally resonant deep dive into a topic that is so often too real for TV. We're genuinely grateful you shared this important time with us. If this deep dive resonated with you, if it offered you a new perspective or simply validated your experiences, please take a moment right now to like, subscribe, or follow Too Real for TV wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can find us easily on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, and Audible, and Apple Podcasts. Your support means the world to us and truly helps us continue to bring these vital, illuminating conversations to light. Until our next deep dive, keep learning, keep growing, and keep bravely unpacking the complex world around you.